There are very few people who don't know the story of the RMS Titanic. More than 1,500 people died in the disaster, but they weren't the only casualties. The ship carried at least 12 dogs, only 3 of which survived. First-class passengers often traveled with their pets. The Titanic was equipped with a first-rate kennel and the dogs were well cared for, including daily exercise on deck. There was even an informal dog show scheduled for April 15th, which sadly never took place. Aside from the kennel dogs, some first-class passengers kept pets in their staterooms, with the crew turning a blind eye. The 3 dogs that survived had a few things in common. They were being kept in staterooms, not in the kennel, and they were tiny. They were taken into lifeboats by their owners, most likely wrapped in blankets or tucked under a coat. Lady is a Pomeranian purchased by Margaret Bextine Hayes in Paris. Her owner took Lady wrapped in a blanket aboard Lifeboat 7. Sun Yat-sen is a Pekingese belonging to Myra and Henry S. Harper. The couple and their dog were on Lifeboat 3. According to J. Joseph Edgett, a historian at Whittier University and curator of a museum exhibit about the Titanic, Mr. Harper said, "There seemed to be lots of room and nobody made any objection." Another Pomeranian, owned by Martin and Elizabeth Jane Rothschild, is also survived. Mr. Rothschild didn't survive the shipwreck and Mrs. Rothschild hid the dog until the following morning when those on Lifeboat 6 were rescued by the RMS Carpathia. The crew initially refused to take the dog on board, but Mrs. Rothschild insisted. History records at least 9 other canine passengers, although there may have been more. For the most part, they were larger dogs that were staying in the ship's kennel. Someone, possibly a passenger, freed the dogs from the kennel as the ship was sinking. The agitated dogs ran up and down the listing deck, adding to the chaos. Although some of these dogs weren't identified, we do know something about several of them. There were a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and an Airedale Terrier, both owned by the children of William Carter, a coal magnate from Philadelphia. Lloyd's of London later reimbursed the family for the loss. The millionaire John Jacob Astor lost his Airedale, Kitty, in the disaster as well. Among the other dogs lost were a fox terrier, a chow chow, and others whose breeds are unknown. Another casualty was a champion French bulldog, Gamin de Pycombe, whose owner had purchased him in England before the voyage. A week after the Titanic sank, New York hosted the French Bulldog National Specialty. One of the show's judges on the day was Samuel Goldenberg, who had boarded the Titanic at Cherbourg in order to get to New York to be a judge. An apocryphal story describes a Newfoundland named Rigel that belonged to First Officer William Murdoch. According to the story, which even appeared in the New York Herald newspaper, Rigel withstood the freezing North Atlantic waters and barked to get the attention of the Carpathia's crew, which helped the rescuers locate the lifeboats. However, according to the Smithsonian and other sources, there is no record of Rigel anywhere, including survivors' accounts. The story didn't stand up to fact-checking and has largely been discounted. There is one story, however, that is both true and heartbreaking. One passenger, Anne Elizabeth Isham, boarded the Titanic in Cherbourg with her Great Dane. She refused to leave the ship without her dog, which was too big to go on a lifeboat. Miss Isham was one of 4 first-class female passengers who died on the Titanic. There are accounts, although unsubstantiated, that her body with her arms wrapped around the dog was later found by a recovery ship. Next time when we think of the devastating losses of Titanic, let's take a minute to think of the beloved pets that were part of the Titanic's maiden voyage. The lucky 3 who survived and the many who, along with 1,500 human passengers, perished in the icy waters off the Newfoundland coastline.